Hey, great job making it this far. Now we need to add in an event listener. So whenever the user clicks one of those objects that we just created on the page, then it gets added into a cart. So that also means that we need to create that cart and updating the quantity. So we need to check to see what the quantity is. So there's quite a few things that we're going to do in this lesson. So let's add that in. So first of all, let's create a cart. We can just create a blank cart object, and then we can use this in order to contain our cart information. So this is where we're going to deposit all of the items that are going into the cart as objects within this cart. And we also need a way, of course, to make that deposit, and that's adding an event listener. So to all of the divs that we just create, adding an event listener, the event that we're listening for is going to be a click. And we can have the function here, or we could send it to a function. So just do it as an anonymous function for now. And I want to select all of those names of those items within the elements. So we've got the item, element, item, and change those to lowercase. So I'll just give it a temporary variable here called namer, getting the element and item, and using JavaScript to lowercase in order to transform that content into a lowercase format. And we're going to use that, of course, within our cart in order to add those in. So console log that out. And this is going to be kind of a really neat thing that you can do with objects, where you can make sure that you're adding in only unique items. So whenever I click, you see that we're getting that item being shown there. I'm also going to comment this one out as we don't need it anymore. So now whenever I click, we get that value being added in and well, not added in, but it's just being represented there when we click it. We can use the item names, milk, apple, butter, and add that into the cart. So taking the cart and using the bracket notation and using namer, we're going to add that in to the cart, and we're going to add it in as an object as well. Because of course we do want to practice working with objects. So we've got the name, so element, item, that's the name of the object. The price of these is going to be element, cost. And of course, they're all going to be the same. I'm going to show you a really neat trick with quantity. So quantity will start out as 1. And we can also add in methods as well. So subtotal, or we can do a function. And maybe we'll want to take the return, taking whatever the price is, and then multiplying it by the quantity. So I think we're ready to try that. So whenever we're adding these, we can see we've added a bunch of stuff. We can take cart, and you can see it's been added into the cart as those objects. And of course, the quantities are always still going to be 1 right now, so it doesn't matter how many I add in. And this is where the trick comes in. And actually, it's not really a trick. It's not a magic trick. It's just the way that JavaScript works and the way that objects work. So this is a great example of why objects are amazing. So we're going to add in a condition here and checking to see if this cart namer exists. And if it doesn't exist, then we create it. And if it does exist, then all we have to do is update the quantity. And that's the nice thing about it. So if it already exists, then we can take the cart namer and all we have to do is update that quantity. So let's update our quantity and add 1 to it. So now if we've got bread and we click bread a bunch of times and butter a bunch of times and we output what's contained within our cart, we only still have bread, we only still have butter, but when we open up the quantity, we see we've got quantity of 6. So if I was to do cart bread, and remember we created that subtotal method, which is pretty cool. If we do that method, it's going to be a cost of 12 because we know that the bread itself has a price of 2 and a quantity of 6. So 2 times 6 is 12. And that's where we can really start using these objects in a really nice, amazing way in order to represent those objects and the values that are contained within the objects. And this provides us so much flexibility when we're using and creating with these. So there's one other thing that we do want to do, and that's output those values. So we don't always have to use the console. And in case we've got someone that's not a programmer, not familiar with the console, they want to use our amazing application, let's output that and output that into the visible area. So that is all still yet to come. Go ahead and add the ability to check to make sure that we've got the quantity and updating those quantities, checking to see if they already exist, if the name exists, and then updating the quantity if it doesn't. And if it doesn't exist, then create that first initial object. So go ahead, try that out. And coming up, we're going to do the finalizing of this solution where we're going to list out the content on the page. And that's going to be using list and looping through all of the objects that we've got contained within the cart and then just visually outputting them. So that's all still yet to come in the next lesson.